Hi, I'm Mrs. Janine Chappell, and I'm ready for teaching arithmetic. This is going to be my 30th year of teaching, and I am so excited to share some things with you that I've learned and some things that are very exciting to implement into arithmetic class. But the first thing I want to show you is that I must ask you a question. So I'm going to read some combinations, and wherever you are, just shout out the answer so you can see how fast you are. Are you ready? 16 minus 8 plus 4 minus 3 equals. Did you say 9? Great job. All right, here's another one. 14 minus 7 plus 8 minus 3 equals. Did you get 12? Wonderful. All right, here's another one. 13 minus 6 plus 9 minus 2 equals. Did you get the double of 7? 14? Wonderful. You did a fantastic job. If you establish good habits and routines at the beginning of the school year, you will have so much fun during arithmetic, and you will be able to use your time very wisely. You know why? Because arithmetic is an adventure. And Dr. Seuss said it best. Think left and think right, and think low and think high. Oh, the thinks you can think up if only you try. So let the adventure begin. Now, I love the Abeka curriculum. Not only have I taught it all the years I've been teaching, but I grew up on it as well. And it uses traditional arithmetic, which simply means that 2 plus 2 equals, that's right, it equals 4. Now, the Abeka curriculum uses the teach, review method. So you're going to review a concept, jump right into the new one, you're going to teach it, you're going to review it, and constantly go back and forth in that way. Also, known to unknown. So let me give you an example. If you're supposed to teach carrying to the thousands place, you're not going to start off your new concept that way. You're going to start reviewing carrying to the tens place, carrying to the hundreds place, and slide right into your new concept carrying to the thousands place. And if you do it smoothly like that, they're not even going to know it's something new because you've reviewed with them that you do the same thing in every place no matter where you are. It's kind of like baking my chocolate chip cookies. I'm going to bake them the same way, same ingredients, no matter whose house I'm at. Now, the curriculum also has objectives, so you can see an overview of each day and what you want to accomplish by the end. There are fun icons throughout the curriculum to show you where things are, and at the beginning of the school year, for you new teachers, there are a lot of different ideas of how you can teach certain things. And as the year progresses and you get more ideas on your own, you can use those ideas or implement some of your own. Now, no matter how wonderful a curriculum is, it doesn't do the teaching, does it? You do. So you as the teacher and I as the teacher, we are the key. And I know that when you're teaching, you want to say everything that you want to say that they need to hear. But 75% of what the children learn is visual. So you want to get out those felt objects, the stuffed animals, the straws, the charts, the flashcards. They're all visuals that they can see and learn from. Do you know that the students themselves are visual? You can get them up and have them pretend to be the ducks on the lake and the frogs on the log so the children can see the example that you're trying to teach. So get those visuals out in front of them. The day that you teach 12 things in a dozen, for us, it's like, well, of course there are 12 things in a dozen. We get eggs at the grocery store. But for them, if you just say 12 things in a dozen, class, repeat, it's not going to sink in. You need to get your egg cartons out, get your plastic eggs. You can even get pipe cleaners and put them in a Twizzler bag and pretend that they're Twizzlers. You can get pretend M&Ms and put them in an old M&M bag and count those. So get things out that are 12 and have them count them. You could even throw a thinking question at them at the very end. So if there are 12 things in a dozen and mom said to go get 18 eggs, how many would you get? What is that? If mom said she only needed 6 eggs, what would you go get? So challenge them with questions, even on that day you teach the new concept. Now, when you're teaching arithmetic or any subject, you want student interaction. So call on them. I love it when we teach borrowing, because after we've taught it and we review it a lot, I love to ask them questions. Boys and girls, I see a subtraction sign. We might get to do what? Borrow. All right, which place do I subtract first? Is the bottom bigger than the top? What do I do next? Where do I put the 1? And I'm just pilfering them with questions. That's how you can get the children involved. And you can get them up to hold things for you and to count for you. Now, of course, we as second grade teachers, we love first grade. And third grade teachers, you love second grade teachers because of the foundations we're building. First grade, you get to teach addition and subtraction all the way up to the 18 family. You get to teach money and time and place value. You lay a great foundation for us. So in second grade, we review everything that you taught, and then we build on that, like I said, with borrowing, because we love to teach the most difficult concept in second grade. That's what makes it so challenging. And then we also get to teach fractions, and we get to build on that throughout the year. And then third grade, you review everything that we taught in second grade, even multiplication and division, because that builds up to long division. And you get to teach equations, geometry facts, algebra facts. So it's a constant building process. Now, because there are some difficult concepts in all the grades, you are the cheerleader on the sidelines, and you are building godly character, encouraging these children by telling them, you can do it. Don't give up. I had a student last year, brand new to our school, and unfortunately, he was very weak in several subjects. And I noticed right away, anytime there was something new, he'd clam up, and he wouldn't even try. Well, after a lot of prayer, God's help, his parents working with me, he reached the point at the end of the year, if it was something new, he charged at it, and he tackled it. So encourage them and tell them, you can do it. Now, the Abeka curriculum is great because it also lays out all your visuals for you, or lists them at the very top. So the night before, you're going to lay out your visuals that you need, your flashcards, your clocks, and then do it in the order that you're going to pick them up. That way you can be very quick from one thing to the next, and that will help you to keep the lesson moving. Now, you also want to make it exciting for the children, and I know when they have to count from 100 to 200 by twos, it can get pretty tedious. So that's when you bring out Freddie. And all I did was make a little bow tie for him because Mr. Chappell wears bow ties, so I had to share with Freddie. And then I put Frida on the back, and I just added a bow on top of her head. So I have Freddie and Frida, and when they have to count on the number chart, just keep switching it. And when their mascot stands, they have to stand. So you're going to keep your children hopping while they're counting, but it's something fun for them to look at, and it helps them to be engaged. Now, you also want to help them to think outside the box. So what questions are you going to ask? How and why? Just keep those questions coming at them. For instance, let's say you played a math game. You got the red team versus the blue team, and they had to collect baseballs. So at the end of the game, it's very easy for you to say, well, this team has 15. They won. Let's applaud them. But did the children learn? No. You want to put it on their shoulders. So you say, all right, red team, I want you to count by twos. But what's going to happen when they get to 14? They got to remember to switch and count by ones. All right? The other team, let them count by threes. Then instead of you saying who won, ask them, stand if your team won. Well, then they've got to think, well, which is larger, 15 or 9? And hopefully the 15, the red team, would stand up. But take it a step further. How many more did the red team have than the blue team? And then you're going to have children popping up because they've already subtracted. And what have you done? You've made them think. You've just shown them a story problem, which, by the way, how many more than subtract? Isn't that cool? And then you've also shown them that they can think of it on their own and figure it out. So keep them engaged in that way. Now, we're going to pause a minute, and I'm going to show you a little clip on the day that we did a graph, because graphs are so much fun. But we already went over the typical questions. How many did this child have? How many did this child have? And then I threw a thinking question at them. Now, I want to compare Donna and Steve. How many more did Steve have than Donna? Now, make sure you're counting by twos. Elena?
2.
Well, 2 squares, but each one stands for 2, so that's 2 what?
4.
Yes. Now, here's the easiest way to do it. Make sure they're the same right here, and then just count the extra that are up at the top. But make sure you count by twos or your answer will be wrong. Let's compare somebody else. Let's compare Chris to Donna. How many more did Donna have than Chris, Benji?
2.
Well, 2 squares, but they each are counted by
2.
2. So you have 2 what?
4.
There you go. Now, here's something else that you can use to help the children, again, to think outside the box. And it's really a lot of fun to make and to use. So it's a piece of yarn, as you can tell, and I've got 2 pool noodle slices on either end to anchor. And then in the middle, I've got 12 slices of pool noodles. You know, pool noodles, so much you can do with them. So since there's 12, you can have students hold the anchor, or you can tie it to a doorknob or a desk or something, and then you have them cut it in half. So they would just take it and figure out where the half is and cut it in half and slide them down the string. And then you can also do a fourth and slide it as well. It really helps them to see it, and they're touching it and they're feeling it. You can also make 2 of them and make it a contest. And if they get it right, they're going to move one to the opposite end and see who gets all theirs to the end first. So it's a teaching tool as well as a game that they can do. So that's really exciting for them. And it really helps them to answer the question, which is greater, a half or a fourth? So you can do that as well. Now, quickly wanted to show you, this is just a picture of a worksheet in the teacher edition. In arithmetic, the students are going to do the front during seat work and the back during arithmetic class. And the questions that you're going to ask are typed right there on the side. Some challenging questions are there as well, so that will be helpful. I love the math charts. If you've had a chance to look at them, they're wonderful. The students can recite them, they can copy them in seat work, and they're very colorful and bright to draw their eye in. Now, there are 5 parts to an arithmetic lesson. You're going to love these. The first one, of course, is addition and subtraction flashcards. And this part lasts for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now, I like to tell my students that we're going to run in a race. So we're athletes, so we got to stretch, we've got to get those wiggles out, get ready for the race. What is the race? It's a math game, but you want to get them warmed up, and you can do that with the flashcards. Now, when you teach addition and subtraction, you're going to give them clues, like what is a twin, what is a double. When you get to subtraction, you're going to teach them related subtraction facts, fancy term, and that simply means 4 minus 1 and 4 minus 3, because they're related. I like to call them cousins because they're in the same family, so it's just a fun term for them. Now, you know, after you learn several families, this stack is going to get bigger, isn't it? Well, you can weed out the ones that they already know. For instance, 0 plus 1, they already know that anything plus 0 is the other add-in. Get rid of that card. And then adding 1, well, when you add 1, it's like the after number. Get that one out of the stack. That way, they're only looking at the more challenging combinations, and they're getting those all the time. And of course, you can do the same thing no matter which process you're using with those cards. Now, 2nd and 3rd grade, you get to teach multiplication and division. So this is really exciting because you're going to give them clues. When you multiply times 2, you double the factor. Count by 3s times 3 times 5 is the clock. And of course, one of my favorite is times 0, because the answer is King 0, because no one can defeat King 0 in the land of multiplication. And you're also going to teach division. It is very important, though, to teach them what the house means. So I like to tell them that 10 is inside the house, The one is knocking on the door. The answer is the chimney, because they tend to not know where to put the answer. They want to put it over here, and that would really confuse long division. So tell them it's the chimney, but they also need to know that the house means the same thing as this symbol. So make sure you emphasize that in both second and third grade as well. Now, we also have concept cards, and I love these. There's so much you can do with them. Of course, dot cards. You can play all kinds of challenging games with them. Have them give you the addition fact, the subtraction fact, and then you have a variety of cards here. You have shape cards. You can ask them how many vertexes it has. You've got days of the week and months of the year. I like to mix them up and ask them what comes after it, what comes before, what's 2 months later, and make them think. Of course, you have the measurement cards, and after they learn it, you can double it. You can cut it in half if it's 12 things in a dozen. But these, I believe, are my favorite, the star cards. Now, of course, they're going to learn that they need to count the stars to figure out the number. But once they've done that, you can make it a challenge match, flip the cards over, and I'm showing you a different one now, and ask them what would Becky's number, if Becky was holding this one, what would her number be if it was 100 more, or 100 less, or 10 more? Which one has nothing in the tens place? So again, thinking outside the box, asking those challenging questions, it does keep their attention with you as well. Now, this has to be my all-time favorite, all right? Now, in the Abeka curriculum, we have number cards, and they are beautiful, and there's so much you can do with them. But I took the Abeka digital clip art, and my husband put the number on it because that's technology, and I'm learning. But he got the numbers on for me, and I have on the back the number written in pencil. So when I flip it, I know what the number is. And after we've practiced addition and subtraction flashcards in the warm-up, I'll pull out the frogs, and I'll say, my number is 12. Now, 1 year, as soon as I said that, the children knew exactly what to do. Way to go, first grade teachers. They tried it as well. But the next year, they didn't understand. So I told them, I said, well, here's what you're going to do. Think 12 minus 7 equals what? And I'm sure you've already said 5. And I said, but you can also think of it this way. What plus 7 would give you 12? Because children think differently, yet come to the same conclusion sometimes. So give them 2 ways to figure out the answer. And then you just flip it, and you say, my number is 12, and they're giving you the answer. Now, you can also use these for multiplication and division. You can continue on. Let me get to some of the smaller ones. Times 2, times 3, divide by 2, divide by 5. And again, you can switch it up like that to keep them on their toes. Now, at the end of the year, I really like to throw them for a loop, and this is what I would do. In one game, times 2 times 5, double it. My number's 16. My number's 18. Times 3, divide by 3. Whoa, did you get all those answers? So this is a great technique you can do, and it's just something different after you've done the flashcards. Now, we're going to pause, and you get to look at a day when I did use those, so you again can see some of the variety of doing it, and it was one of the first days we actually did it. You are going to be frogs. Who's going to get to take a hop? My number is 13.
10.
Martini?
4.
Martini?
9.
Anyone who said 9?
11.
Martini?
7. 8.
It was 8. Asher had it first.
5.
And now Martini has crossed over. Choose a friend who's working hard. Students watching, were you able to beat Martini? She is so fast. All right, my number is 12. Everyone working together.
4.
What'd you say, Levi?
5.
5 is right. Take a hop, sir.
2.
And Dane?
6.
Benji?
11.
Now, I hope you enjoyed that, and you're probably already thinking what cute visuals you're going to make those number cards. Now, believe it or not, we're still in the warm-up and review because there's more. Money. You're going to teach them all the different coins. You're going to teach them what the coins stand for, what's on the coins, also who is on the coin. And this is a great time to remind the children that we live in a country that God established, that God gave us our freedoms when you tell them about in God we trust. So pull in those biblical training times into your lessons as well. but you're going to teach them how much each one is, and you're going to review with them. Now, sometimes the curriculum will say, start at 100, count by 25s to this number, then count by 10s to this number. And you could pause the children and say, now let's count by 10s, now let's count by 5s. But why do that when you can simply say, I'm going to hold up the coins. When I switch the coins, you switch what you're counting by. Start at 100. So they'll start at 125, 150, 175, and you hold up the dime, 185, 195, 200. So you're having them switch what they're counting by using coins. So you're practicing the coins while they're practicing their counting. It's a twofold process. Now, if you can find some fun clocks to use, you could have these in your classroom to help the children review time. Now, our cheerleaders at school, they have a fun cheer, and I took it and changed the words a little bit. When I say 12, you say o'clock, 12, 12. When I say 3, you say 15, 3, 3. And then when you pause, they say the minutes. So once you've trained them, of course, you're going to cut out that first part. When I say 6, you say 6, 6. And you can have them get out their pom-poms. And it's a fun, quick way to jump into your review of clocks. And you can do different relays with your clocks and make it a whole lot of fun. Now, the next part is the speed drill. The speed drill lasts for about 5 to 7 minutes, and this is what the book looks like, our test and speed drill key. And inside you'll see the answer keys for the speed drills. Right here, they have a fun picture on the front, and then they have the 4 squares on the back. Now, they will do this 4 days a week because the other day is the test day. So it's usually 2 speed drills, then the test, then back to speed drills. I encourage you to check these speed drills every day. If they get it all right, they could get a fun sticker right here. Or if they miss 1 or 2, put -1 or 2. The reason I'd like for you to try that, if you haven't already, is because if you check it daily, you're going to see, oh, they got them all right, but they missed the last 3. So the ones they got done were right. That means they're struggling with time. But if they got them all done, but they missed several, they're going too fast. They're not getting those facts like they should. It will help you to evaluate them, and you'll know what to emphasize with them during class or during the 10-minute combination time. I also tell my parents, when the speed drill comes home on Mondays, cut it into 4s, stick it in your purse or in the car. You got a quick thing to look at to review combinations with them orally. So it's a really good review time at home. Now, the next part is the story problem. This is about 3 to 5 minutes. Story problems are not in every lesson, but when they come up, be animated. Act it out. Let the children come up and be the frogs and the ducks, and let them see what it means. Put some visuals up on the chalkboard so they can actually see what the story problem is asking. Every worksheet has room on it where they can draw a picture that will help them to solve the story problem. Now, if you remember these 4 steps, it will help you to help them solve the problem. The first one is find the fact. The fact is the number. So if they're doing it on their worksheet, have them circle the number words. Then find the question, which are the clue words, like altogether, left, how many more than, and have them underline those clue words. Then they get to decide which process to use. And the last one is check to make sure it makes sense. Now, like we talked about before with 15 minus 9 equals 6, this is a good time to point out, even if a smaller number is listed first in the story problem and they're supposed to subtract, doesn't mean you list the numbers in order, because they can't have 9 minus 15 equals 6. They have to start with the largest number. So that's a good time to point it out, because in 2nd grade, when they get to subtracting money, they've got to realize they need to put the largest amount first. So that, again, is a building process. The next step is your new material. And when you introduce the new material, keep in mind this is going to be from 10 to 15 minutes. This is the bulk of your lesson, the most important section. So you can start off, you're going to start off with teaching, explaining, and demonstrating. So you're going to tell them the new topic, what it is. You're going to explain it to them. You're going to demonstrate it with visuals that will help them. Let me give you a clue. There was a day, I love this lesson, and it's toward the beginning of the year, where you're teaching between numbers, all right? So you start off with these nice, soft friends, and 3 children to come to the front and hold them. And when I did this one year, the children were just standing there petting. I had to make sure they were listening. But anyway, so they were holding them, and I asked the children, I said, boys and girls, which animal is in the middle? And of course, they said, the fish, called on a child. So then I switched, and I said, which animal's in the middle now? And they said, the ladybug. Who has not been in the middle yet? And of course, they said, the frog. So then I told them, well, you know what being in the middle is, right? I mean, you've got somebody on your right side, somebody on your left side. It could mean that you have someone in front of you or behind you. So you're surrounded on either side. So that's the middle. Then I switched the children. So let's say we have John and Mary and Luke. So I switched John and Mary, but kept the animals the same. So then I said, who is between the other 2 children? Then I switched the other 2 children, and I said, who's between the other 2 children? And they had to say it. So did you notice I switched the word from middle to between? They know middle. You started with something they've known. And I switched to between, which some of them are familiar with. But that's teaching, explaining, and demonstrating a new concept. And it's really a lot of fun with the animals as well. Now, your next step is the worksheet. 10 minutes for the worksheet. Now, I'll be honest with you, some worksheets take longer than others. So as part of your overview of the week and studying by the day, make sure you look at the worksheet and see how much time you're going to need to go over that with them. And this is the application part. Also in the lesson is a thinking cap, and it's just a challenging question. You can have them put their thinking cap on, tie it under their chin, pop up when they know the answer, and you call on them. But it just challenges your higher students. Not that your lower students can't get it, but it keeps everybody on that idea of challenging them and trying to figure it out. Now, Abeka clip art is beautiful. It has a lot of good visuals that you could use. There are the clocks. You can make a clock for each student. It's very exciting for them. And if you have technology that you're able to use, you could do something like this. And you could have the children cut the fish in half and let half of them swim away. And what else could you cut in half? Well, of course, the octopus legs. You know, you could look at that as well. So it helps them just to get something new. Now, some helpful tips about arithmetic. There's still the 10-minute combination time. That is separate from your math lesson. So let's say, for instance, you have math in the morning. You could do the 10-minute combination time after lunch. So it's separate from it. And during this time, I like to tell the children, we're going to practice first, get that warm up, then we're going to play a game. Sometimes I'll tell them what the game is before we start, because then they're like, ooh, I want to work hard. Because I have a rule in my classroom. If you want to play, you have to participate. So I tell them to practice. So you've got one row up and the rest of the children are looking at you and they're going, and they're mouthing the answers to you. They're participating. And then they get to play a game. So we're going to pause a minute, and I want you to see a little clip of the game I called Dot to Dot, and how the children were able to keep going while we were doing those combinations. You're tied, 10 minus 8.
2.
And Callan comes, 11 minus 6.
5.
13 minus 6.
7.
And Martini comes, 13 minus 10.
3.
13 minus 8.
4.
5 is correct, and Levi gets to go. Next, 12 minus 10.
2.
Now, that was a fun game, wasn't it? Maybe that's something you'd like to try in your classroom as well. Now, sometimes in the curriculum, you may think you've looked at the warm-up and review, and you think, oh my, I've got to review clock, and they've got to fill in the missing numbers and combinations and do money and get it done in 3 to 5 minutes. How am I going to do that? Well, overlap your concepts. You could have the children 5 of them go up to the board, and they're going to fill in the missing number. And then on the other side, you got some money. Have some children go over and count the money while you stand where you can see everybody and you review the clock. And then by the time they're done, you're finished with the review. You can go check their work and then jump into a clock game. So overlapping different points in your lesson will help you to get everything done effectively. Now, there are dictated sections and paper drills in all the lessons for all the grades. They come up every once in a while. You can do it right there on the math worksheet. Now, if you are in first grade and you still have your mini sheet, your handy dandy notebook, feel free to do it there as well. But there is plenty of room on the worksheet, so you can do that. Now, have you ever gotten wrong answers before? We all have, haven't we? So there are those days when you ask the children about measurement. 3 common questions I ask, they tend to get the numbers mixed up. It's 3 feet in a yard, 12 inches equal a foot, and 36 inches equal a yard. And they tend to switch them up. But here's an idea you can use. If you ask a student, how many feet are in a yard? And they stop and think, and they say, 12. Repeating the question, does that get them to give you the correct answer? No. They're just going to start guessing. So instead of repeating the question, let's say it's Becky, and you say, now Becky, do you remember that big yardstick I had and it had different colors on it? How many colors were there? 36? I mean, she really does not know. So I would call on John. John, how many feet are in a yard? Hopefully I wouldn't have to repeat the question because he's paying attention. And he says 3. Instead of coming back to her and saying, Becky, how many feet are in a yard? She's just going to echo him. I switch the question and say, now Becky, do you remember your ruler in your desk? How many inches are in a foot? It's that last number on the ruler. 12? Good. So we have 12 and 12 and 12. So how many feet are in a yard? 3. I mean, she will be so excited that she figured out the answer and you helped her through it. And by the way, this is a cute visual you can use. It's just 3 rulers that my husband put together and I colored them to show 3 feet in a yard. But that's a technique you can use when you get wrong answers. Now, teachers, I know that you're concerned about getting back on track with COVID, but here's some ideas for you. Help class. It's in the curriculum. It's geared toward phonics and arithmetic. Use that help class time. 15 minutes into the day or in the middle of the day. And the curriculum, it does have a spiral review. So you've got review sections in each lesson. We're constantly reviewing and teaching back and forth, so that will help them. And you've got your review charts and all the techniques I showed you today. So don't fret. You can get them back on track, especially at the beginning of the year when a lot of review is written into the curriculum. Now I want to show you some fun visuals and some critical thinking that you can use in your classroom. Feet in a yard, you could use these giant footprints and tape them to a yardstick. That would be handy. This is actually a bulletin board. I love interactive bulletin boards because they're beautiful to look at, but then the children get to do something with them. The yellow lines that you see dividing those shapes technically aren't there before you tell the children to go up and divide them. So they get to pick up the line and they get to divide it. You could actually take all the shapes off and they have to put up the right amount. So it's a fun interactive bulletin board that you could use. This next one just shows you some fun visuals that you can put facts on, file them, and use them from year to year so you don't have to pull out your chalk so much and spend a lot of time writing on the chalkboard. This is another one of those. There's a lesson in 2nd grade where there are a lot of shapes that they have to divide, and they're unusual ones, so I just made them out of construction paper and use them from year to year, and that's handy for them. Of course, apples you can cut into different shapes, and you've got a half, a third, and a fourth as well. Now, how about that seat work time? Oh, they're getting so antsy, I gotta get them up. Well, here's some ideas for critical thinking. After number 3, boys and girls, you get to go to the back of the room and do this. So the first one you see is a silly straw, and it's got a combination at the bottom. So they've got to solve it, then thread the straw with the right number of beads. Now, I'll give you a quick tip I learned from experience. Pony beads don't work. They're not wide enough, so you got to get beads that are a little bit wider so they'll fit on the straw. But they loved that. The next one, we learned graphs in second grade, and as we progress, it gets a little more challenging, as you saw from one of our clips. But this is a different graph that they get to build. Now, the smaller paper, which you can't see, simply gave them the instructions. The bird was 3, the cat had the most, the ferret had the least, and the dog had the same as the bird. So they got to put the little sponges down, and it really helped them to understand the concept of graphs. Here's another one. This was a pictograph that they got to do, but this time I told them they had to count by 2s. So that was a little more challenging for them. The next one, jungle theme. We had the little cups that you can buy with fun pictures on them, and it was a jungle theme. On the bottom of the cup was a combination, so they had to solve it, flip the cup up, and put that number of erasers, well, they called them erasers, I called them jungle animals, inside the cup. On that day, though, for some reason, there were more animals in there than there were supposed to be. I think they had way too much fun with this one. This is a fun game with Uno cards. You can tell them that 12 is our number of the day, and throughout the day, oh, you were the first one to get your handy-dandy notebook out. Go flip over 2 cards. If the sum is 12, they get to keep it and see who has the most at the end of the day. You can do 2 teams. The next one has popsicle sticks for greater than, less than, and what's at the bottom is what I call an abacus, a mini one, of course. It's just a pipe cleaner with 2 anchors on the end, 10 beads in the middle. So as they're learning their families, they can slide the beads down to form the combinations. This next one I learned when I was in school. The first one is a phone number, counting by 3s. When the color changes, the tens place changes. The bottom one is the zip code, counting by 4s. And the 2 and the 0 are different colors, so therefore the tens place changes. And I just want to share one more thing with you. At this time when you're really wanting your children to improve and get off to a great start, Winnie the Pooh said, "Promise me you'll remember, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think." So encourage your students this year that they can do it. I'll be praying for you that you have a great start to the year. And remember, you're not alone in this. God is with you every step of the way.